I'm here with Tim Stanley. My name's Gordon Rayner. I'm Associate Editor of The Telegraph. Tim, of course, is our sketch writer and comment writer. Tim, you once upon a time, you were a Labour candidate, weren't you?
That's right, yes.
Did Sir Keir Starmer do anything today to convince you to go back?
I think the whole point of his speech was to persuade people that there was nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
So I was really struck by how he pitched himself. I always thought him as the new Labour Party, but now I think he's the new Conservative Party. There was all this stuff about how we're going to heal, we're going to build, and he even at one point said we're going to sort of quieten politics down and take it away so that you can go away and do some fishing instead. He was weirdly specific about what you might do when politics disappears. So in the sense of him posing no threat to one's way of life, I can imagine a lot of voters would watch that and think, well, I no longer worry about Labour in the way they did under Corbyn. The issue is, was there anything particularly inspirational that gave them a sense of here's how things are going to change? Mm-hmm. There I'm not so sure. There were a lot of bones, not much meat. For instance, he made a big thing about how people are going to regain a sense that they can break through glass ceilings. How? How does a government do anything to make that happen?
Well, let's drill down on some of that detail in a moment. First of all, though, of course, we had that very dramatic start, didn't we, when he came on stage, he was confronted by a protester, possibly a climate change protester, we think. How did you feel he dealt with that, and do you feel that ended up actually being a bonus for him?
You can't buy publicity like that. There'll be a deep state conspiracy theory out there that he actually paid the guy to do that, because it gave him the opportunity to look unruffled.
Yep.
So if there was always something, before people always tend to sort of say that Keir Starmer was a bit boring, but in this case that played to his advantage because he was just completely unmoved by it. It was exciting, but also he was unmoved by it. He had a good response to it where he said this is the choice that we face between protesting or governing, and that's why we had to change the party. Yeah. So for a few days in which the Corbynites were very quiet because they've largely been locked out of the conference, for the far left to burst in on the speech is
maybe their death rattle.
It actually not only is it looks like the last desperate gasp of their movement, but it also hands a publicity coup to Keir Starmer, because otherwise a lot of people would never have watched this speech or been aware that he was giving it. That's going to be the images that's going to be in the newspapers and on telly tomorrow. Exactly.
Okay. So let's just talk about a few of the details of the speech. Firstly, I thought that he got perhaps the biggest cheer of the whole speech when he talked about pulling up anti-Semitism by the roots.
Yes.
And of course he then denounced Hamas as well. Yeah. Total 180-degree turn from where we were a few years ago with Corbyn.
Oh my golly, when you think of what conferences were like in the past, and not just the specifics but the general vibe, the kind of the edge to every meeting, all of that is gone. This is now professional, this is middle of the rig. The word socialism was never used once. If the Labour Party is like anything now, it's like the Democratic Party in America. It's progressive, but it's patriotic. It's pro-capitalist, but it's kind. And crucially, to say that there's no sense of risk or danger to it. This is now the party of NATO, pro-Israel, and pro-nuclear bomb, and that's just such a big change.
Some of the other phrases that he used did seem very Tory, didn't they? He talked about NHS reform, and he got a huge clap for that. When did you think that was going to happen at a Labour conference? He said private enterprise is the only way this country pays its way in the world. And he was talking about his 5 big takes, or his 5 big plans. The 5 are: take back the streets, Great British Energy, which is this nationalised energy company, get the NHS back on its feet, tear down the barriers to opportunity, and get Britain building again. Any of those 5 take your fancy?
Well, look, first of all, on the net zero stuff, Cheryl Jacobs wrote a good comment about this today. There's no evidence that it creates the sheer number of jobs that he is implying.
But he's made it a wedge issue.
It is. It's expensive, and also consumers are going to have to pick up their bill. But as you say, he said at one point, I say steam ahead. Rishi Sunak wants to slow down. I say steam ahead.
Speed up.
Speed up. That's it. Speed up. So if any voter cares about the green stuff, they're going to lean more towards Labour right now. And as for NHS reform, he does say NHS reform, but he leaves it up to Wes Streeting to hint more at a kind of private angle of NHS reform. But actually, if you read the detail of what Starmer said, it's all stuff like more use of AI. It's actually about more staff.
No reform of funding, is there?
It's not reform, as we all know needs to be done, which has some change to the funding structure.
It's more preventative medicine.
More preventative medicine, yes.
Rather than trying to find a new way of actually funding surrounding the thing.
Yeah.
Okay. What was your biggest takeaway then of the whole speech? What's the thing that you will walk away from this conference thinking about most out of that speech?
I think it is the line about healing. Now, I'm not saying I buy that, but I thought that was really very striking. The Conservative Party right now is in government, but acting as if it's the opposition, because its message is this country's run by a permanent bureaucracy and we're going to take them on. The Labour Party is in opposition, but it's acting like it's in government, and its message is we're going to heal all the wounds. Now, I think that's very rhetorically effective. I think some people really want that because we're sick of politics. We're sick of, we're tired of the rows over Brexit and everything, and we'd like a government that just got on with stuff. The problem is that whenever politicians set themselves up as a spiritual figure, someone who can just bring healing to the country if you vote for them, it never works. Because in government you have to make tough choices, and you will irritate someone. You will open up old wounds.
Yeah. Was it the speech of a future Prime Minister, do you think?
It sometimes felt like a speech of the current Prime Minister. I mean, there's no escaping that. That's the way they've branded themselves. They're very effective at it. And I think if they won an election, it almost wouldn't feel... It would feel less like a revolution, more like a gentle transition. Because, as I say, they keep emphasizing there's a lot we're not going to do. And there's a lot of threats and danger that we no longer pose that they used to.
Yes, they're trying to sort of make it almost an inevitability that they're going to be the next
which is a
party.
risk because some voters don't like being taken for granted.
Yes, and they talk of a decade.
Yes.
But equally, I think that there is some sense in that because if voters start thinking maybe they could be in power for a decade, then it makes it feel more likely. Perhaps I don't know.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.